Hello and welcome to Chapter 12. Today we're going to talk about career management development. So this topic you should be able to identify with since you're currently working on your career. So as we go through the chapter, kind of think of where you are in the process of deciding what you want to do. Why did you choose EHRD or technology management as your major? What do you want to do with it? What are your goals and plans? So kind of use this as an opportunity to think about that as we go through the chapter. So the book talks about there being a new employment relationship because in the past, people went to work for organizations and they stayed a long time. My father worked at the same company for 30 years. And back then that was considered to be the norm. Nowadays it's a little unusual for someone to work that long for an organization. People tend to leave one organization and go to another, and oftentimes even changing careers as they do so. So this new employment relationship requires that employees be more responsible for their own career development versus organizations, which is how it used to be. So a career is described in the book as the pattern of work-related experiences that span the course of a person's life. Okay, so job and occupational choices an individual makes during a career are determined by forces within the individual, the organization they work for, external forces. Somebody's family may have an impact on this, or society, or the education system, things you learn in school. So an individual's driven toward particular job choices originally by their knowledge, skills, and abilities, okay, and their life situation. Career development is an ongoing process by which individuals progress through a series of stages, each of which is characterized by a unique set of issues, themes, and tasks. Career planning is a deliberate process of becoming aware of oneself, of opportunities, constraints, choices, consequences. This is where someone identifies career-related goals. And then career management is an ongoing process of preparing, implementing, and monitoring career plans. Okay, and this can be undertaken by an individual alone, or it can be done within an organization's career management system. So the book talks about how stages of life pertain to career development. As we go through life, we go through different stages. Okay, the book talked about two models, Erickson's model of adult development and Levinson's era's approach to adult development. And what both of these say is that common experiences, challenge, and tasks that most people go through impact their career. As their life changes, their career also progresses. The stage view helps to predict crises and challenges that may come up, and therefore we can plan ways to resolve them or minimize them. So the stage view development, the stage views do have limitations because all individuals are unique. We're not all the same. We're not all going to, at a certain age, do a certain thing. We're not all going to have the same experiences. So it's useful as far as just a general model, but you have to recognize that we're all going to do it a little bit differently because we're just not all the same. So different models of careers. The traditional model says that when people are different ages, that different things occur as far as careers. So the traditional approach says that age 0 to 25 is when we prepare for work. So this is where you are now. So you're developing an occupational self-image, you're assessing different occupations, looking at choices, you're pursuing education, obviously. And then you're going to select an appropriate job. Then you're going to go into organizational entry, okay? And then after that, early career, where you're going to learn the job, the organization, the rules, and that sort of thing. Then mid-career, when you reach your 40s, is when you kind of step back and you think about, your early career. And then you may make some changes or choices because you want to remain productive for the rest of your career. So you may make some choices there. Then we have the late career where people are wanting to remain productive and maintain their self-esteem, but they're also preparing for an effective retirement. That's the traditional model, that we progress based upon what point we are in age. Okay, then the contemporary approach looks a little bit differently, and I think the protean career approach is very interesting. This says that individuals have to take responsibility for their own lives and employability because organizations are so, changing all the time, and people have to be prepared to change as well and take control of that for their own well-being. Okay, it implies that career management has to be proactive. We have to be doing something. Otherwise, what happens if our organization is merged or downsized or something happens? Okay, then the career concepts approach kind of looks at this as 4 different things that can happen. The linear approach is the traditional, where you move up in a hierarchy. And then it has expert. This is where somebody is kind of devoted to their occupation, and it's built on just knowing as much as they can about it. Then we have the spiral. This is a lifelong progression that moves across occupations or disciplines. Okay, then lastly is the transitory, where somebody every so often just completely changes and does something different. Okay, and I sort of did that. If you think about it, I worked 20 years in human resources and then decided I wanted to go into higher education. So I probably did not I followed the traditional probably up to mid-career, and then I made a pretty big change. Okay, and what these newer concepts say is if you do that, then you kind of start at the beginning and go through this whole transition again, which pretty much is true. I can attest to that. So career management involves planning for career activities and then putting those plans into action. The book talks about a model for that. Okay, it talks about 8 career activities. We have career exploration, then we have awareness of self, goal setting, strategy development, strategy implementation, progress to goal, career appraisal, and then it could start again. Okay, so it's a continuous process that doesn't end, and this is impacted by education, family, work, and society. So this process of career management is cyclical. It's cyclical, it's ongoing. As you can see from the model, it just keeps going. So we need to make career decisions, and these can be the result of changes within an individual. Like I said, at mid-career, kind of like I did. Could be changes in the environment. I mean, maybe something happens in your organization and you're forced to make a career change and to reevaluate all of these things. So career development activities and practices. Different things that we can do as HRD people to help somebody with their career development, career management. We can provide self-assessment. This is where we can provide self-study workbooks or career planning workshops that allow people to sort of think about these things and maybe assess what their strengths are. Okay, then we have individualized counseling and career discussions. This can be used for employees continuing employment. One popular approach is employees approaching retirement. We have pre-retirement discussions to kind of transition somebody from that one phase to another, because that's pretty big change, pretty important. People about to be laid off, people who are terminated. There are outplacement programs where counselors help employees who lost their job with preparing resumes and interviewing skills and how to look for a job. So all that's considered counseling. Then we have internal labor market information. Okay, this is where within the organization, when jobs come up, we let people know through job posting. Okay, or some organizations do career path. This is where a sequence of jobs is set up. Like we would go from maybe accounting analyst to accounting manager, accounting director to, so on and so forth, chief financial officer. There'd be a path through the organization. Okay, or skills inventory. We could take a skills inventory, and when jobs come up, we know what skills employees have, and we can then put those employees in those positions. Then we have organizational potential assessment process, where we will identify people in the organization that have the potential to move up in the organization and offer them development and different programs. And then developmental programs. These are mentoring programs. Okay, so many things HRD people can do to help people with this sort of thing. Okay, the book then ends up the chapter by talking about some issues in career development. It talks about developing career motivation. I mean, how do people do that? We have to have, the book identifies resilience. When things start going wrong, people have to sort of keep going. What causes somebody to stick with it when things don't look so good? Having career insight, knowing what's going to happen and what are the options. And then career identity, being able to identify with a career. Okay, and a big problem is the career plateau. And what this means is somebody gets to a certain level in an organization and they really aren't going to go any further. So it's the point in their career where it's not likely that they're going to be promoted. This can be very traumatic for some people. It can be stressful. They can feel like a failure. So it's something that, as HRD people, we need to recognize and work with. Okay, then there's career development for non-exempt employees. These are the employees, like clerical employees and factory workers and people like that some of them may not want development, but many of them do. So it's designing programs to help those people maybe set goals or develop skills and that sort of thing. Then we have enrichment, career development without advancement. This is where we allow people to gain skills and abilities, but in today's uncertain environment, we can't promise them that a promotion will be forthcoming. So they're just enriching their own sort of skill set. Okay, and hopefully, something may come up. And this is why I think people tend to leave an organization and go to another. If they've developed the skills and their organization doesn't offer much hope for advancement, the only way to use those skills may be to go into another organization. Well, I hope you enjoyed the chapter and thought about your own career development as we went through this. Thank you.